precious metals, and that's been a go-to for people in uncertain times. And I think in this case it might well be the case again, and certainly if trends of the past are the indications of the future, we could well see a increase in the price of metals as people look for certainty and comfort in their investments.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske. I am your host. I'm also very privileged to be your host because the audience base of this show has just really expanded over the last couple of months. It's been very, very exciting to read all of your feedback, especially knowing that the show is making a difference for you, is making all of the difference for me. Now, on today's call, I have the pleasure of welcoming CEO of GoldMining Inc., Mr. Alastair Still. Welcome to the show, Alastair.
Thanks for having me on, Rick. Good to be here today.
Absolutely a privilege to have you here. Now, we're going to be talking about gold and gold mining and the impact of global events at the moment on the value of gold and stock market fluctuations and so on and so forth, and what we can expect from gold and GoldMining Inc. in the coming months. But prior to doing any of that, Alastair, it's customary for us to spend a moment or two learning a little bit about you, your journey through life, as it were. So starting off with where you're calling in from today.
I am calling in from Maple Ridge, about 30 miles east of Vancouver in beautiful British Columbia, Canada.
Fantastic. Now, I've heard a lot of wonderful stories about that region. Tell us what you love about living there.
Well, I get to have the best of both worlds. I'm near the big city. I can go into town when I need to, but close to the mountains and lakes, lots of hiking trails, and to enjoy the great outdoors.
And do you like doing that often? Do you find getting away from the workplace is, I guess, therapeutic for you?
I love to get out in the trails and try and get a little fishing in when I can, not as often as I'd like, but easy access to trails around the house here, so it's a great way to de-stress after a day at the office or at the desk.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because we know that by and large what happens in a business is very much similar across all the businesses, but what does change every single time that I have this conversation is the people behind the business. So I really appreciate you spending some time sharing with me. So what do you like to do the most? Do you prefer to fish or do you prefer to hike? What's your main thing? What do you like doing the best?
Well, I'd love to say I'd like to be out fishing more often. It's probably more the convenience of being able to hike, and we're so fortunate to have so many great trails and terrain in the area where I live in. You can stay flat, and there's some great dikes around the local area, or you can go for some climbing and go up some pretty steep vertical and get up into the snow. So it's a great variety and easy access. So probably hiking is what I've attracted to the most, and a bit of a training session right now. I know for a friend we're joining over in the UK. We're doing a hike in Scotland in the beginning of May this year, so I better put a few kilometers on my boots to get ready for that.
Tell me, in your family, do you have pets? Do you like pets?
To be honest, I've because I've led a bit of a nomadic life at times in the mining industry. I've traveled so much. We probably haven't had as many larger pets as most, but the kids had smaller pets when they're younger. But not a lot of pets now because it's just Pardon?
Not a lot of pets. Too busy.
No, well, more the traveling, more convenience. Who would look after them when we were away and whatnot? So we've kept the smaller pets, which they can pass off to friends when they were traveling. But I'm at the age now where the kids are they're both off at university, so they're
all done and dusted.
It's a bit more space in the house these days.
Oh, I love it. Now, in terms of having more space in the house, what's a bit of relaxation time mean to you? Do you find that it's important? What do you do when you relax? Do you like to read or things like that?
Yeah, I definitely like to read. If I'm not out on the trails, I've got quite a garden in the backyard. I like to, tinker in the yard and keep myself busy that way as well.
Are you a bit of a green thumb, or do you kill everything you touch like I do?
I wouldn't profess to be a gardener for a showpiece, but it's more of a big area that needs a fair bit of work. That keeps me busy, though.
Now, tell me something. Is the location that you're in right now, Alastair, the same location that you grew up in?
No, far from it. Actually, I have actually lived sort of all over the place. I grew up originally in Mississauga, near Toronto, central part of Canada, and I'd gone to school in the eastern part of Canada, New Brunswick, and I'd worked all through the north in northern Ontario, mining towns like Kirkland Lake and Timmins. And then about 15 years ago, I came to the Vancouver area. And but in between there, I also had a stint where I was 3.5 years in Argentina building a mining project in the Patagonia in the southern part of Argentina. So I've had the fortunate opportunity to travel for work, and I've seen some incredible places along the way.
So what have you learned about the differences in culture, and is there any commonalities between us as peoples across the world?
Well, I think there's always the commonality of people and what their comfort is, and being, and actually having comfort of family and familiarity. But what I have also learned is that, for places like Canada, that there's so much of what we have here we sometimes too often take for granted. But also I would say there's a regularity to what we have here. And that is, we may not always get what we want or know what the outcome is going to be, but we know the process and how it unfolds and how it will play out. Whereas some places in the world, that's less certain. There's a bit more of a chaotic approach, and it's a bit more erratic on what the outcome will be. But that's one thing I certainly appreciate about Canada, is that there's generally a regular path and a route to get there, and people take some comfort in that.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Now, I know we have a lot of different listeners, different types of different backgrounds, entrepreneurs, investors, existing business owners, book authors, and the likes. And they all take a bit of something away from the conversations, which are always unique. Now, on that, I'd love to talk a little bit about, first of all, risk exposure, and how you manage risk. What's the process that you go through?
Well, I guess to frame it, though, I mean, risk can take on a different aspect or different scope for different people, and depending what the situation is. But if we frame risk in the broader perspective, and certainly how we look at risk as a company, and we put things into big baskets, and then we can filter things downward as we get to the granularity of a project. But the first element of risk that we would look at is geopolitical risk or country risk. And that's why, as a company at GoldMining Inc., we've focused our efforts on jurisdictions we're comfortable in, that are stable and have a good solid history of mining. So our countries that we operate in, that we have projects in, Canada, the US, Colombia, Brazil, and Peru, all established mining jurisdictions, all within the Americas. And that's one way of managing our risk and staying in countries that are familiar to us, and also with a solid mining history.
So I'd suggest, just for context, if we could go back and share a little bit about, I guess, where it all started for you. Where was the first exposure to the gold industry?
Well, the first exposure to me was actually my first job out of university. I trained as a geologist at university, and then when I started work was in a small town in northern Ontario called Kirkland Lake. It's been a mining camp there for some 100 years. Very fortunate to work at an operation, the Macassa mine, which was a deep, very deep, high-grade underground operation. So I learned an awful lot about mining and mining processes and exploration. And then it's a fairly small town. And then when I was fortunate enough to get transferred to an operation run by the same company at the time in Timmins, which was a transfer up to the big city. It was moving from 9,000 people to 40,000 people. It was, it was quite the upgrade, but both with a very rich and extensive mining history. So was able to diversify my experience there, not just underground mining, but open pit mining and narrow vein mining and bulk underground mining as well. So got a real good flavor of the mining methods and techniques and exploration across some classic mining camps.
I remember working out in the field, seeing the geologists going through their core samples underneath these, tents, going through kilometres, it seemed, of just these core samples. Tell us a little bit about your time as actually a geologist.
Well, it started as a project geologist. You'd work a section of the mine, you'd call it your beat, and you'd be responsible for most aspects of that mine and how it was run, from your daily underground grade control, sampling underground, to lining up drill programs, either with small definition drill programs or a smaller drill they call the bazooka, to test the walls and test for mineralization that might be left behind. So you really help coordinate with the engineering department, geology department, mining department, the smooth and efficient extraction of gold from your beat within the mine. And you took ownership in it, and you had a great camaraderie with your colleagues who worked the same part of the mine as you.
You can't really buy experience, can you? Tell us a little bit about what you learned from that. What was the most predominant thing that you can recall during that time?
Well, I think it was a bit of an eye-opener, really. I mean, you go through school and you can learn the technical aspect of a trade, and you can learn technical aspects of geology, but it doesn't necessarily prepare you for what you experience in a real-life working situation. I think it taught a number of things, and important things in life, such as the diversity of a group of people you're working with. You have trained PhD geologists or ground control technicians, geophysicists, to miners who are working underground every day. It's a great diversity of people. Everyone brings their own skill set to the table, and you can learn from people that you might not think you're even asking a question to. But working with them, interacting with them, and being dependent on them in a team setting, those are things that you learn. And I can look back now and think that I was working in the town of Kirkland Lake. This was 25 plus years ago. I'm still in close contact with a number of people I worked with back then. You worked with people, the same people you would socialize with in the community you worked in. It was a great atmosphere, and you really formed good lifelong bonds with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I too have lifelong friendships born from the industry that we work in. Now, I just would like to sidestep a moment. I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I see this profile on the coastline behind your image. Tell us a little bit about what I'm looking at in that image. It's a fascinating picture.
On the LinkedIn picture, well, that was a recent trip I made to the Isle of Staffa on the west coast of Scotland, which is these giant columnar basalts making up a fantastic, it's a fantastic display of nature at its finest in terms of, pure geology. And I was fortunate 2 years ago to take my father on that trip, and we had a great time. And many people know those columnar basalts, probably more familiar with them, where they show up across the Irish Sea in Ireland, known as Giant's Causeway. And they pop up as a great formation on the west coast of Scotland. So some spectacular scenery, a great place to go to. Certainly a bit of a rugged crossing across the open water there, but spectacular scenery and
surreal almost.
Yeah, it is really. It's almost like, how do these classic columns of basalt in hexagonal shapes form in nature? It's really quite a wonder.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Thank you for sharing, because now you've clarified something for me and where they are. Now, I'd love to know where and how was it that you came to be part of GoldMining Inc.?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, the first almost 25 years of my career, I'd worked with major mining companies, operating companies such as Goldcorp and Newmont, and spent a long and happy time there. But there was a merger of our company, Goldcorp, and it was merged with Newmont a couple of years ago. And it was a big company, but it would likely involve a move for me to stay with the company. And when I learned of the opportunity at GoldMining, I knew the chairman and founder, Amir Adnani, from the mining scene in the Vancouver area.
Absolutely.
I was very impressed with the company he'd built, the team he had in place, and this portfolio of projects throughout the Americas that were really, waiting to be, rediscovered. I almost say they were assembled at very opportune moments. So he had put a great portfolio together, but really was missing the catalyst, and that was the ability to advance the projects, daylight the value, and that's really what got me attracted, was this large and diverse portfolio of assets.
Absolutely great feedback. Amir Adnani, had him on the show not so long back. Great individual. Now, I'm wondering, can we talk about the impacts of global events on gold pricing, and what's your view about all of this?
Well, I mean, I guess there's two ways to look at it. And one is just the pure impact that it might have on the gold price. But I would have to start by saying, I think what's happening in Ukraine and with Russia, first and foremost, is an absolute tragedy. And there's going to be people whose lives are going to be disrupted, people who are going to lose their lives over that. So first and foremost, we can't lose sight of that.
No.
But and the impact that it has on our industry is almost a collateral damage, if you will, or collateral impact on the consequences that humans will suffer from that. But what we have traditionally seen in the past is that type of uncertainty or global crisis will drive people to comforts, well, things that they can take certainty or more comfort in holding, which is effectively precious metals, and that's been for millennia a go-to for people in uncertain times. And I think in this case it might well be the case again. And certainly if trends of the past are the indications of the future, we could well see a increase in the price of metals as people look for certainty and comfort in their investments.
I saw it almost like an inverse proportion. At least locally, our stock market lost $100 billion in a day, yet the price of gold, it broke out and it increased. Why would that be? Is that based on what you've just explained?
Well, I think there's two factors, and one is that even if you looked at the price of gold specifically over the last 24 hours, it shot up. It was getting close to $2,000 per ounce overnight and in the early part of today, and then it came back quite a bit from then, and I think the overall market started out low and then rebounded. So I think really what it shows is that it's created uncertainty in the markets. It's created a disruption in the normal affairs of a lot of people, and it's caused those choppy waters is what we've seen in the dramatic swings in the market. I think that that chop in the waters will likely continue for a while, but I think in the long term that the trend and the forecast for the precious metals have been to outperform in those times of uncertainty.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, I'd love to, for those who are new to the show and for those who are, maybe have listened for a while now, if you could explain how exactly GoldMining Inc. operates. What's the business base?
Well, the business base has been quite simple, really, and that is GoldMining Inc. has been an acquirer of assets and has picked up assets over the last 10 years or so and done it at very opportune moments, and so made some great purchases to build up a portfolio of predominantly gold-based resources throughout the Americas, some 16 million measured and indicated gold equivalent ounces and a further 16 million gold equivalent inferred ounces, so over 30 million gold equivalent ounces of very large inventory. And we've built that at very opportune times, and some might say at 10 cents on the dollar compared to what the companies we acquired were trading at their highs. And really now it's a story about us unlocking the value in that portfolio. I think with such a large, big portfolio, it's been very difficult for people to grasp what we have, how to value it properly. And so when compared to our peers, I think we're highly undervalued. In fact, on a common metric where people will measure junior mining companies on an enterprise value per ounce, we're trading somewhere near $5 per ounce if you take out the value of the shares we put on our balance sheet by creating Gold Royalty last year. So that valuation is dwarfed by most of our peers and any of our competitors who might trade at $20, $30, $40, even $50 per ounce. So we think there's a huge opportunity for our shareholders to benefit from that re-rating and valuation gap. And to do that, we're advancing our projects. We've put new resources in place on some 75% of the resources in the last year. We've started on PEA studies. We're also looking at doing our first drill program in the next near term to further unlock ounces and show the value of these assets that we do have.
There's certainly investors who would be interested in this at different scales and levels and abilities, financial abilities to get involved. Now, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing for those very people, what do you think your one superpower is? What's the one thing you do the best as the CEO?
I think me personally, or as the company?
Both.
Well, I think the strength of our company really is our assets, and it's easy to say, but I think our assets are twofold. One is that the properties we have and the jurisdictions, which are great jurisdictions, we have this large and diverse portfolio of assets. But then the second part of assets is our people, and I'm just one piece of that. But I think I've joined an exceptional team, and we've actually added some exceptional talent to our team. Since I came on board just over a year ago, we've added a very talented individual, Sam Ma, who's our Director of Engineering Studies, and Sam brings some 25 plus years of experience working for operating companies and major companies, and has done literally hundreds of evaluations around the world. So he brings a great deal of knowledge and strength to our team. And then more recently, we added an individual I'd previously worked with at my time at Goldcorp and Newmont. Is Eric Chen as our Director of Mineral Resources.
Mineral Resources, yep.
And he's an expert in creating the block models. And some people see this as a bit of an art and a science. And there's not a lot of people who really truly understand how the resource models are calculated and how they're formed. But Eric is, he's got some 30 years experience doing that, working for majors, and it really, I think, gives us a great advantage having a strong team of people on board, so we understand our assets and how to move them forward.
Fantastic feedback and a great team, absolutely no doubt about it. Now, I just would like to touch on uranium. It's become an important energy source, and GoldMining Inc. has actually owns a uranium project. Is that correct?
That is it seems an asset in our portfolio that not a lot of people recognize or even appreciate that we own. But really, basically it's a free option play on a pretty sizable uranium package, which is in the Athabasca Basin of Alberta and Canada. It is one of the highest grade uranium mining regions in the world. In fact, operations that mine uranium from that district right now are some 100 times the global average of uranium grade. So it's a great district. We have a very large land package there, some 125,000 hectares, in some highly prospective ground. And we see junior mining companies in that area with smaller land than us, less prospective, trading at $50 and $100 million market caps. And here we have this project in our portfolio. It's just, itching to get out and be explored and be unlocked. And I think that would be a great opportunity if we were able to put that into the hands of a right partner, or a spin out opportunity, or Newco, that would create a tremendous amount of value for our shareholders, which in truth, really, we get little value for having it right now on our books.
But there seems to be a massive opportunity given the nature of social consciousness around, fossil fuel consumption versus, lithium mining and production for EV. What do you think is going to be the ultimate winner in the long run?
Well, I think there's going to be a need for multiple sources. There's not one easy answer, and certainly I think uranium will play a piece of that. And there has been a lot of interest, and there has been certainly some positive moves in the price of uranium. But we also have to realize that even with the talk and excitement there has been about uranium, the uranium spot price is still only about 1/3 of its all-time high.
Wow.
So we still think there's room to grow with uranium, and I think on a number of other metals as well. It's easy to say that with a company that's actually called GoldMining Inc. that we certainly are very much focused on gold. But you've highlighted an excellent example where we have a uranium project, but we also have a significant inventory of copper resources in our portfolio. Some 2.7 billion pounds of copper.
Wow.
That occur as byproducts with our existing gold primary deposits. So there's an extra resource that I think is an important piece of the push for greener energy and electric vehicles. And it's not just the batteries for those vehicles and the wiring and the building of the cars, but it's the actual whole infrastructure, the global grid system that's needed, and the infrastructure and the upgrades that are going to be needed to power those vehicles, charge those vehicles. So we're fortunate to have byproducts of copper, significant copper, on a couple of our projects. And I think the price of copper, the fundamentals for the price of copper is strong, and that will continue to push as that demand grows.
Please educate me. Is there a component of copper when bullions are created, gold bullions are created?
Not necessarily. There are projects that can have minimal gold, but a lot of the larger systems, which they are referred to as a porphyry style system, we often get concentrations of gold and copper and silver, and those happen to be some of the largest styles of deposits in the world that can often occur in 5s or 10s of millions of ounces. Some of the big deposits that you'll see in South America, and some of the deposits in the ranges of North America and even Australia and elsewhere. These giant systems with copper and gold, and we're fortunate that we have a couple of those systems. one of which is our Whistler project, which is in Alaska, which has some 9.44 million gold equivalent ounces, so a very significant component of copper occurring with some 6 million ounces of gold. So a big system, large, and lots of exploration potential on it. And I think that copper component, it really is an important piece, because we can price out the economics on the gold, and the copper really can help lower the overall costs, provide a very important byproduct to further enhance the economics of projects such as our Whistler deposit.
Now, I can see on your website that there are several projects underway. Is there much exploration happening at the moment for new project sites?
Well, the focus of our company historically has not been to do our own exploration. We've been picking up projects which others have explored and have left actually a lot of very some low-hanging fruits, some tempting targets that are available for us right now. And I think one of those targets is really speaking to us right now. We've just completed a preliminary economic assessment on our Lamina project in Colombia. That was released in January. That showed very strong economics to mine just over 1 million gold equivalent ounces over about a 10-year mine life with strong economics. But what it also shows, and what we have in our information and information on our website, is that deposit has two centers where it's focused on the resources, but we actually see the evidence of a third center less than 1 kilometer away, so it could be mined in conjunction with the main resource that's already been identified. There's no resource on this third center. It had some very preliminary drill holes into it, showed very strong results, some 100, 200 meters in some cases, over 1 gram gold per ton, which is a very good grade for a deposit that size. And that's an exploration target that we are very much focused on learning more about, getting information, getting ourselves set so that we could launch our first drill program for the company on there in the near term.
Wow, this has just been an amazing call. I know that there'd be lots of excited people on the call today. Thank you again, Alastair, for sharing the information. Now, I'm wondering, if you don't mind, where can people go to get more information? For example, what's your stock ticker?
We are actually trading on the New York NYSE American under the ticker symbol GLDG. And we also trade on the TSX in Canada, ticker symbol there, very easy to remember, GOLD, gold.
Fantastic. And for anybody who's on the call today and you want to find out even further information, go and visit goldmining.com. You'll find information about corporate structure, those people that we've mentioned earlier in the call, including your good self, Alastair. There's also project information and so on and so forth, up-to-date news, everything you could possibly want to learn about this amazing organisation. And with all that being said, Alastair, thank you so very much for joining me on the show today.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Rick. Look forward to speaking again in the future.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.